Hey everyone, a really truly warm welcome to all of our PyLadies Rivers mentees tuning in today. I am absolutely thrilled you're here with us. Now, I want you to think of this explainer not as some dry lecture, but more like a personal mentor session. Just you and me sitting down and demystifying this whole journey of learning Python. So if you are completely new to programming and feeling a little unsure, take a deep breath. You are in exactly the right place.
You know, when you first start learning Python, it can honestly feel like you've just been dropped onto an alien planet. Suddenly you're surrounded by weird words, variables, data types, if statements, loops, functions, lists. It is completely normal to watch an experienced developer just effortlessly typing away and think to yourself, am I actually going to get this? Like, am I really going to understand all of this? I want to pause right here and just validate that feeling for you. Feeling completely overwhelmed by all this new terminology is just part of the process. But the answer to your question, it's a resounding absolute yes. You will understand it.
And really, that brings us to the core of what we're talking about today. There actually is a secret to doing this successfully. The big secret to learning Python is not trying to absorb the entire language all at once. You totally don't need to do that. The real secret is just learning one small thing at a time, practicing it, making a bunch of mistakes, figuring out why you made them, fixing them, and then just moving forward to the next small thing. That's literally the whole formula.
Okay, let's talk about a huge trap that beginners fall into, which is rote memorization. Please, whatever you do, do not try to memorize Python like you're cramming for a history test. You don't need to memorize every single command. Actually, scratch that. You shouldn't memorize them. Instead, you want to focus entirely on understanding what the code is actually doing. Grasping the underlying concept is infinitely more valuable than just memorizing the exact syntax, because once you genuinely understand the concept, you can reuse it everywhere.
Let's break down a super simple example to show you exactly what I mean. Imagine you have two short lines of code, name equals Ada, and print name. You don't just want to memorize those words, you want to understand the logic behind them. So name is just a variable. Think of a variable like a cardboard box with a label on it. Ada is the string, it's the actual item we're putting inside that box. So the variable just stores the value, and that print command, it just opens the box and shows you what's inside. Boom! Once you understand that simple logic of storing something and displaying it, you can use that exact same concept in 100 different programs.
And this ties right into your daily practice. Look, watching your mentor write code is great. Reading code is great. But neither of those things will ever replace actually typing the code out yourself. When a mentor demonstrates a concept, don't just sit back and watch it like a movie. Type it out. Change the values. Break it on purpose. Seriously, see what happens when you change a number from 20 to 25. Getting your hands dirty and deliberately messing with the code is how your brain actually connects the dots. Now guess what? When you start typing, you are going to make mistakes, and that is fantastic. Let's say you're typing fast, and you accidentally type print with an M instead of print with an N. Python is going to complain. It's going to throw a big red error message at you, and that is perfectly 100% normal. Running into typos and red text is just a standard Tuesday for a programmer. In fact, your PyLadies Rivers curriculum actually expects you to hit these errors. So you look at the message, you spot the M, you change it back to an N, and you run it again. Easy.
So if you take one thing away from our session today, I want it to be this. Please remember this every single time you see a red error message pop up. Debugging is not evidence that you're failing. It is evidence that you are learning. Errors are not these massive red flags telling you to quit. They are essential stepping stones. Every single time you fix an error, you literally become a slightly better programmer. You have to embrace them.
All right, another super important piece of advice. Keep it small. You absolutely don't need to build the next massive social media platform or some giant AI model right out of the gate. The truth is, small, practical programs teach the biggest lessons. Write a program that just prints your name. Write one that calculates your age or simply checks if a number is even or odd. The PyLadies Rivers curriculum is structured exactly this way for a reason. We build you up gradually, step by step, from those basic concepts all the way to full applications.
And, you know, as you're building these little programs, it's so tempting to look over and see someone who's been coding for 5 years just whip up a complex script in 5 minutes. Stop right there. Do not compare your beginning with their 5 years of practice. Your only goal today is to understand just one more thing than you did yesterday. Always remember, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 100. Just be kind to yourself.
Here's a little secret about the industry. Python is really just a tool. Programming itself is actually about solving human problems. If you want to build a little program that calculates weekly expenses,
Don't just immediately start hammering away at the keyboard, typing syntax. Ask yourself the human questions first. What information do I actually need from the user? How am I going to store it? What math needs to happen? What should the screen say at the end? This is key capstone guidance from PyLadies Rivers. Sketch out the flow first, solve the human problem, and then, only then, translate it into Python.
You might also be thinking you need to sit locked in a room coding for 8 hours a day to get good at this. You absolutely don't. Consistency is way, way more important than duration. Showing up consistently for short, focused little practice sessions builds massive skills over time. Learn a concept, write a little code, make a mistake, fix the mistake, and go about your day. Those small, daily, consistent sessions are what actually transform absolute beginners into real programmers.
The best part? You do not have to do this alone. PyLadies Rivers is built exactly for this. We are a supportive community where beginners learn together, ask questions, and grow their confidence. Listen to me. Never, ever feel ashamed to ask a question when you're stuck. If an error message makes 0 sense, ask someone. If a mentor explains a concept and it's just not clicking for you, ask them to explain it again. There is absolutely no competition here. We truly believe we learn best when we're supporting each other.
Eventually, I want you to stop asking, okay, what tutorial should I watch next? And start asking yourself, what can I build right now with what I already know? Take those variables, those loops, those functions you've been practicing, and smash them together. Build a simple little contact book. Make a market price logger. Because when you start building your own stuff, that is when the magic really happens. All those abstract floating concepts suddenly snap together, and Python will really start making sense to you.
But hey, let's be totally real for a second. There are gonna be days when this feels super easy, and there will definitely be days when you feel completely, utterly lost. Maybe dictionaries just aren't making sense yet. That is normal. Don't quit. Just take a breath, step away from the screen, maybe review the explanation later, run a tiny example, and try again. You do not have to conquer everything in a single day. Just give yourself the time you need.
All right, let's bring all of this together. The ultimate secret to learning Python isn't some magic trick. It's a rhythm. It's a pulse. You learn, you practice, you make mistakes, you fix them, you ask questions, you build small things, and then you repeat. That's it. That's the whole shebang. Every error you fix is a brand new lesson learned, and every single small program you build is another solid brick in your foundation of confidence. This is exactly what we believe here. It's the official PyLadies Rivers philosophy, and it perfectly wraps up our explainer today. Learn one step at a time, ask questions, practice consistently, and celebrate every small win. Look, you don't need a fancy computer science background. You definitely don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You literally just need the courage to start, the patience to practice, and the consistency to keep showing up.
Because one day, I promise you, you're going to look at a piece of code that used to look like absolute gibberish, and you're going to realize, wow, I actually understand this. Focus on your progress, not perfection. I really want you to walk away from this explainer knowing deep down, I can learn Python. I just need to keep going. So, my final question for you today is, what are you going to build first?